This 2020-21 Vendee Globe Round the World Race Report is brought to you by Pantanius Professional Race Cover, your tailor-made racing yacht insurance. After 24,300 nautical miles, and more than 80 days of racing around the world, victory or a place on the podium on this 9th edition of the Vendee Globe might go down to the final lay line, picking and sailing the perfect compass course, from more than 100 miles out to the finish line at Les Sables d'Olan's famous Neuch Sud Buoy. At 48 hours to the first finisher who is expected on the line Wednesday afternoon, computer modeling from the current weather predictions suggests 3 solo skippers could finish within 4 hours of each other. And with the wind on the Bay of Biscay due to strengthen for those chasing the leaders on Wednesday into Thursday morning, it is still possible that 5th-placed Yannick Besteven, 253 miles behind leader Charlie Dalin this afternoon, can arrive and steal a podium position, and even victory, because of his 10 hours and 15 minutes of time compensation given for his role in helping search for Kevin Escoffier, after the French skipper had to abandon his boat. Dalin, 37, can do nothing more than sail his best possible race to the finish line. His Imoca Apivia is compromised on starboard jibe due to a failed foil bearing, but since moving on to port jibe and his favored starboard file, the race's most consistent leader has been fastest, this afternoon making 22 knots, 5 knots faster than second-placed Louis Burton and 1 knot faster than third-placed Boris Herrmann. The seemingly unflappable German skipper, who looks set to follow his British friend and confidant Alex Thompson, onto the Vendee Globe podium, is closing out a beautifully executed first attempt at the Vendee Globe. But Herrmann, who today admitted his emotions swing between enjoyment and stress, highlighted from on board Seaexplorer-Yacht Club de Monaco just how close this finish can be. It will be such an amazing finish. I expect it will be down to the last degree of wind angle on Wednesday afternoon, and it is so hard to predict, even with the ensemble model, which averages the likelihood of each model. I will play it a bit by ear. Since Sunday, the leaders have opted for 2 separate routes. There are 2 main options, north or east, sums up Louis Burton, Bureau Vallée 2, who conceded first place to Dalin yesterday. Burton, Herrmann, and Dalin were on the eastern option at the latitude of Portugal, and over 200 miles west of the trio at the northern group. Ryant, linked out, 4th at 3 p.m., Yannick Besteven, Mater Cock 4, 5th, and Damien Seguin, Group Apicil, 6th. Between these 2 options, the choices are almost infinite. More than 200 routes can still be run. The Dalin-Burton-Herrmann trio from the southeast will have to deal with a small area of light wind in the Bay of Biscay. This will allow the group from the north to come back with more sustained wind, warned Mateo Acion Richam on the Vendee Live. Passing the latitude of Lisbon, Portugal this morning, Charlie Dalin is in control of a very tight 3-way fight at the moment, converging fast with Louis Burton, Bureau Vallée 2, who should be about 30 miles behind when they cross jibes. And Boris Herrmann, Seaexplorer-Yacht Club de Monaco, is some 37 miles behind Burton in third. Clearly in these conditions and into the finish, weather and sea conditions being close to forecast, Dalin's latest generation Vendee design with its big foil, should be fastest, and the 37-year-old who grew up in Le Havre, France, is the line honor's favorite. But he needs to be more than 10 hours and 15 minutes ahead of Yannick Besteven, Mater Cock 4, and 6 hours ahead of Herrmann. So every fraction of a knot that Dalin can find might prove vital. He has absolutely no latitude for small mistakes or failures during the next 48 hours to the finish line. Every mile gained just now at 19 to 20 knots can compensate for a slower miles as the breeze eases closer to the finish line. In contrast, Burton has been slower overnight, making just 12 to 13 knots, while Herrmann has been around 15 to 17 knots. Besteven is 232 miles behind him. Do the maths. Right now that is just enough for Dalin, whereas he needs time and distance on Der Skakel Herrmann, who right now has his time on the race leader, on Burton, and also his time, a net 4 hours 15 minutes, or call it 90 miles, differential on Besteven. Right now the 2 key weather problems are a transition zone off Cape Finisterre, and that the last miles into Les Sables d'Olonne will be lighter, maybe just 10 to 12 knots. The forecasts do seem to show more breeze coming in the north, and so this finish is very, very finely balanced. Besteven's option may give him the extra wind he is seeking, and the transition area is smoother offshore. Meantime Alexia Barrier on TSE for My Planet, and Ari Hosala on Stark, crossed Cape Horn. Barrier passed at 21:55 hours UTC and Super Happy Hosala, the first sailor ever from the Nordic nations to race round solo, passed the landmark at 01:19 hours. Jeremy Bayou crossed the equator back into the Northern Hemisphere at 04:05 hours UTC, and Isabel Jost has arrived safely in Salvador de Bahia, Brazil. Keep watching the Sailing World on Water for exclusive on-dock interviews at the finish line, and this has been our 57th specially produced report on this year's Vendee Globe race. We trust that you have enjoyed our reports as we have in producing them. See our Vendee Globe reports on youtube.com World on Water, or our website, boatson.tv. This 2020-21 Vendee Globe Round the World Race Report was brought to you by Pantania's Professional Race Cover, your tailor-made racing yacht insurance.